You've been in that room before. The conference room, where every word feels like it's being weighed on a scale you can't see. Your boss just dismissed your idea with a wave of his hand, not even looking up from his phone. Your colleague, the one who smiled at you in the hallway this morning, just nodded in agreement with him. And now they're all moving on to the next topic like you never even spoke. You feel that heat rising up your neck, that tightness in your chest that makes it hard to breathe normally. And here's what kills you. It's not even the first time this happened. It's the third time this month. You've been telling yourself that if you just work harder, if you just prove your value, if you just show them what you're capable of, they'll finally see you. They'll finally respect you. They'll finally give you the seat at the table you've been fighting for. But deep down, in that part of you that you don't like to acknowledge, you know the truth. You know that no matter how hard you work, no matter how brilliant your ideas are, you're still going to be overlooked. Because you're playing a game you don't even understand. You're following rules that everyone else abandoned a long time ago. You think this is about merit, about fairness, about doing the right thing. And that's exactly why you keep losing. Because while you're busy being good, being fair, being the person who plays by the rules, everyone else is building alliances, making deals, positioning themselves in ways you can't even see. And the worst part? You've been taught that needing people is weakness, that real strength means doing it alone, that if you have to rely on others, you're not really powerful. So you isolated yourself. You convinced yourself that you're a lone wolf, a self-made success story waiting to happen. And now you're wondering why you're stuck in the same place, while people less talented than you are climbing past you like you're invisible. If you've ever felt this, if you know what it's like to work twice as hard for half the recognition, if you're tired of being the smartest person in the room that nobody listens to, then stay here, because what I'm about to tell you is going to fundamentally change how you see power, influence, and success. Let me tell you something that Robert Greene understood when he wrote The 48 Laws of Power, and that most people completely miss. Power is not a solo sport. It never has been. Every king in history, every emperor, every person who ever held real power understood one fundamental truth about how the world actually works. You cannot win alone. And I'm not talking about that shallow networking advice you've heard 1,000 times. I'm not talking about collecting business cards or adding people on LinkedIn. I'm talking about something much deeper, much more strategic, and infinitely more powerful. I'm talking about the architecture of influence. Sun Tzu said it in The Art of War. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight, and he will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. You know what that means in practical terms. It means that your ability to navigate power has nothing to do with your individual talent and everything to do with your ability to position yourself within a network of influence. Niccolo Machiavelli spent his entire life studying power, and you know what he concluded? That the prince who relies solely on his own strength will fall the moment that strength wavers. But the prince who builds a web of alliances, who understands that power is relational, that prince becomes untouchable. And yet here you are, trying to do everything yourself, trying to prove that you don't need anyone, trying to be so good that they can't ignore you, except they can ignore you, and they will. Because in the game of power, isolation is not strength, it's suicide. Now, before we go deeper, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with yourself. How many times have you had a brilliant idea, a perfect solution, something you knew would work, and you presented it, and it just died in the room? Nobody picked it up. Nobody championed it. It just fell flat like a stone into water. And then 2 weeks later, someone else presented almost the same idea, maybe even a worse version of your idea, and suddenly everyone loved it. Suddenly it's getting implemented. Suddenly that person is getting promoted. And you're sitting there thinking, what the hell just happened? If you've experienced this, if you know exactly what I'm talking about, I want you to comment below. This has happened to me. Just those 4 words. Because here's what I need you to understand. When you write that comment, you're not just venting, you're recognizing a pattern. You're seeing that this isn't a personal failure. This isn't about you not being good enough. This is about you not understanding how decisions actually get made. And when you see hundreds of other people commenting the same thing, when you realize that thousands of smart, talented, hardworking people are all experiencing the exact same thing, something shifts. You stop thinking there's something wrong with you, and you start realizing there's something you weren't taught. Nobody ever sat you down and explained that the best idea doesn't win. The idea with the most powerful allies wins. So go ahead. Comment below. This has happened to me. And let's build a community of people who are finally ready to see the game for what it really is. Here's the problem, and I need you to really hear this, because it's the core of why you keep hitting the same wall over and over again. You believe in meritocracy. You believe that if you're good enough, smart enough, hardworking enough, the world will reward you. And that belief is killing your potential. Because merit is not how power works. Merit is what people talk about to make the system seem fair. But behind closed doors, in the rooms where real decisions are made, merit is just one small factor among many, and it's usually the least important one. What matters in those rooms is this: who vouches for you? Who has your back? Who stands to gain if you succeed? Who will fight for your idea even when you're not in the room? These are the questions that determine who rises and who stays stuck. And if your answer to those questions is nobody, if you've been operating under the assumption that your work should speak for itself, then you've already lost before the game even started. Because while you're waiting for your merit to be recognized, someone else is building a coalition. Someone else is making sure that when their name comes up, 3 other powerful people immediately say, yes, we support them. And that's the difference between you and the people who seem to glide through life collecting wins while you collect participation trophies. So, what's the solution? How do you go from being ignored to being influential? How do you stop being the person with great ideas that go nowhere and become the person whose ideas get implemented before you even finish explaining them? The solution is understanding the most ignored law of power, and it's this: isolation is defeat, and alliance is dominance. Every single person who has ever wielded real power understood this. Alexander the Great didn't conquer the known world alone. He built alliances with his generals, with conquered territories, with everyone he could bind to his vision. Julius Caesar didn't rise to absolute power through military genius alone. He formed the first triumvirate, a strategic alliance with Pompey and Crassus that gave him the political backing to reshape Rome. And when that alliance crumbled, he built another one, because he understood that power without allies is just temporary strength waiting to be crushed. You need to stop seeing alliances as weakness and start seeing them for what they really are: force multipliers. One person advocating for you is worth more than 100 hours of you trying to advocate for yourself. Because when you speak for yourself, people see self-interest. When someone else speaks for you, people see credibility. And this is where most people completely miss the point. They think building alliances means being fake, being manipulative, using people, and that's not what this is about at all. Strategic alliances are about mutual benefit. It's about identifying people whose success is tied to yours and making sure that connection is clear and strong. It's about becoming the person who makes other people more successful, so that when you need support, it's in their interest to give it to you. Let me give you a practical example of how this works in real life, because I don't want this to stay abstract. Imagine you work in a company and you have an idea for a new process that would save time and money. If you're operating from the isolated mindset, you prepare a perfect presentation. You gather all the data, You make your case to your boss, and then you wait. And most of the time, nothing happens. Your boss says they'll think about it, and your idea goes into the black hole of things that sounded good in the meeting but never got implemented. Now imagine a different approach. Before you even present the idea, you identify the key stakeholders. Who would benefit from this change? The operations manager, who's been drowning in inefficiency. The finance person who's under pressure to cut costs. The team lead who's been complaining about wasted time. You approach each of them individually, not to sell your idea, but to understand their pain points. You ask questions, you listen, and then, when you fully understand what they need, you shape your idea to address their specific problems. You're not changing your idea, you're framing it in a way that makes it their solution too. Now, when you present to your boss, you don't present alone. You present with the operations manager, the finance person, and the team lead all nodding along, all ready to support it, all having already bought in. And guess what happens? Your idea gets implemented. Not because it's better than it was before, but because you built a coalition around it. That's the power of alliance. That's what happens when you stop trying to win alone and start winning through others. But let's go deeper, because this is where it gets really interesting. There's a shadow side to alliance building that most people never want to talk about. And if you really want to master power, you need to understand this part too. Alliances are not friendships. Let me say that again, because people confuse this all the time. Alliances are not friendships. Friendship is based on affection, shared values, emotional connection. Alliance is based on mutual benefit and strategic positioning. You can have both with the same person, but they are not the same thing. And when you confuse them, you end up hurt, betrayed, and wondering why people you thought were on your side turned against you. Here's the truth that Machiavelli laid out in The Prince, and that most people are too uncomfortable to accept. Alliances last as long as they serve both parties. The moment the benefit disappears, the alliance dissolves. And if you don't see that coming, if you're still operating from a place of, "I thought we were friends," you will be blindsided every single time. This doesn't mean you should be cynical or ruthless. It means you should be clear. When you build an alliance, you should know exactly what you're offering and exactly what you're getting. And you should regularly assess whether that exchange is still balanced. Because the people who stay in power are the ones who can read the room, who can sense when an alliance is weakening, and who can either reinforce it or gracefully shift their position before it collapses. This is the dark psychology of power that nobody wants to teach you because it sounds manipulative. But it's not manipulation, it's clarity. It's seeing social dynamics for what they are, instead of what you wish they were. There's a concept in game theory called the Nash equilibrium, and it's incredibly relevant here. It describes a situation where no player can benefit by changing their strategy if the other players keep theirs unchanged. In other words, everyone is making the best decision they can, given what everyone else is doing. And that's exactly what strategic alliances are. You're creating a situation where everyone involved benefits from maintaining the alliance. You're building a structure where betrayal is more costly than loyalty, and you're doing it consciously, deliberately, with full awareness of what you're creating. This is not about being cold or transactional. You can genuinely care about the people you're allied with. You can want them to succeed, but you also need to understand the mechanics of what holds that relationship together. Because the moment you stop providing value, the moment the alliance becomes one-sided, it will crumble. And if you didn't see it coming, you'll be left confused and resentful while the other person has already moved on to a more beneficial arrangement. Now, let's talk about the internal work required to actually do this well, because this isn't just about external strategy. This is about confronting parts of yourself you've probably been avoiding. If you struggle to build alliances, it's usually because of one of three things. First, You have a deep-seated belief that needing people makes you weak. This often comes from childhood, from being let down by people you depended on, from learning that self-reliance was the only safe option. And now that belief is a cage. It's keeping you isolated and powerless while you tell yourself a story about independence and strength. Second, you don't believe you have anything valuable to offer. You see other people as powerful and yourself as lacking. So you don't even try to build alliances because you assume nobody would want to ally with you. This is pure fear disguised as humility. And it's robbing you of power you already have but can't see. Third, you're terrified of being seen as manipulative. You've internalized this idea that strategy is dirty, that influence is unethical, that good people don't play these games, and so you handicap yourself while everyone else is playing full out. All three of these blocks live in your shadow. They're the parts of you that you've rejected, the beliefs you've buried because they feel too uncomfortable to look at. But until you bring them into the light, until you examine them and decide consciously whether they're true, they will control you. They will keep you small, isolated, and powerless. So, the real work here is not just learning how to build alliances. It's confronting why you haven't been doing it already. It's asking yourself, what are you afraid of? What are you protecting? What story are you telling yourself that keeps you stuck? Here's your 7-day challenge, and I want you to actually do this because intellectual understanding without action is worthless. For the next 7 days, identify one person in your life whose success would benefit you and whose success you could genuinely contribute to. This could be a coworker, a peer in your industry, someone in your network. Day 2. Offer them something of value, information, a connection, a resource, something that costs you almost nothing but helps them. Day 3. Have a conversation where you listen more than you talk. Understand their challenges, their goals, what they're trying to build. Day 4. Identify one specific way your success and their success could be interconnected. Day 5. Propose a simple collaboration or mutual support structure. Nothing big, just something small that benefits both of you. Day 6. Follow through on whatever you committed to. Prove that you're reliable. Day 7. Reflect on what happened. Did the alliance feel natural? Did you provide value? Did you receive value? Did it shift how you see your own power? This exercise is not about using people. It's about experiencing what it feels like to operate from a place of strategic collaboration instead of isolated effort. And if you do this honestly, you'll start to see opportunities for alliance everywhere. You'll start to realize that power is not something you hoard. It's something you build through connection. If you made it this far, it's because something in this video hit you differently, and I know what you're feeling right now. There's this mix of clarity and discomfort. Clarity because you finally understand why things haven't been working. Discomfort because now you can't unsee it. You can't go back to pretending that hard work alone will get you where you want to go. And maybe there's a part of you that's resisting this. A part that's saying, but I don't want to play games. I just want to be good at what I do and have that be enough. And I get it. I really do. But here's what I need you to understand. This isn't about playing games. This is about seeing the game that's already being played and deciding whether you want to keep losing or finally learn the rules. Every single person who has ever risen to real power, every person who has ever built something that lasts, every person who has ever turned their vision into reality did it by understanding that power is relational. You cannot do this alone. And pretending you can is not noble. It's self-sabotage. So here's what I'm offering you. This channel is not about empty motivation or surface-level tips. This is about the deep mechanics of power, influence, and human psychology. Every single week, I break down strategies that actually work. Not theory, not wishful thinking, Real, applicable tactics that you can use immediately to shift your position in any social structure. If you're tired of being overlooked, if you're done watching less capable people rise while you stay stuck, if you're ready to finally understand how power actually works and use that knowledge with integrity, then subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that red button, turn on notifications, and commit to this path. Because this is not a quick fix. This is a fundamental rewiring of how you see the world and your place in it. And if this video helped you see something you couldn't see before, if it gave you even one insight that's worth applying, leave a like so more people who need this message can find it. The algorithm rewards engagement, and every like you leave helps someone else break free from the same isolation that's been holding you back. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, you don't need to do this alone. In fact, you can't.